Hi, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee and meteorologist Joe Rayo on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Welcome tonight on the 10th of November, 2020. And Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, Long Island's largest rock salt provider and provider for all your winter storm needs. Rock salt, mag, ice melting pellets and flakes, Penelo Premium Snow and Ice Melter, Biomelt, Geomelt, spreaders, shovels, snow blowers, and much more. Prepare ahead for any winter storms that head our way. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. And the telephone number is 631-756-1125, or just go to the website, omnitruevalue.com, for more information. And yes, we are here, and life is good, I think.
I don't think we're going to need rock salt in the immediate future, Joe.
Well, no, obviously not. Um, we are pretty stuck into this warm air that we've had, and don't see that hangs around until this cold front moves on through, and then we see some chillier weather, at least getting back closer to normal for the end of the week and going into the weekend. Looks like the weekend may not turn out too bad. And then after another cold front comes through on Monday, we might actually get chilly for a few days.
I think by this time next week, we're going to have a blustery wind, a chilly wind. It's only going to be in the 40s, and it's going to probably feel like the 30s. And compared to what we've had over these last few days, a lot of people I know are going to be a little bit teed off at the sudden change in the weather. But it is, after all, Joe, November.
That it is. We need a subtle reminder. We've got two tropical storms. We have Tropical Storm Eta, and tropical storm watches are back up for the west coast of Florida. We have Tropical Storm Theta way out in the eastern Atlantic, so that breaks the record. This is the most active hurricane season ever, or at least that we know of. 20, what is it, 29 now? That's the
It's
29th
29,
storm? And
29, including the unnamed storm in 2005,
right,
which
which
was not
that
originally counted, but
right, that made that 28 for that year. So
correct.
we're at 29, and there's disturbed weather that when it gets into the Western Caribbean, the Hurricane Center says there's a 70% shot that that could become a tropical depression and maybe even a tropical storm. But we don't give an iota about that, do we?
Well, that's the way you and I'm sure most of the people would pronounce it. Although I have been told
It's
that
iota,
the Greeks pronounce it a bit differently.
and how is that?
Uh, but I'm not gonna even get into that right now. We'll cross that bridge when we get it. How many iota it may take.
Okay, gotcha. Very good. All right, so let's get started tonight. But just before we do, tomorrow night, uh, his schedule permitting, Bill Goodman will be joining us, meteorologist from the National Weather Service in Upton, New York, right here on Long Island, and he's been our guest many times before, and he has his ideas of what the winter may turn out to be, and we emphasize the word may, and he'll be here to pontificate away his never to be humble opinions. So we'll have fun with that. So be sure to mark your calendar down for tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern time, right here, right here, live on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. So, uh, also, by the way, Joe, we've got severe weather going on in the Midwest. There was actually a tornado watch that was up for parts of Illinois, and there's a little bit of it left, and we'll show that in a moment. And
Well, the thing that really blows my mind, Joe, about the forecast, not so much the warm days that we've had, but the night times. They are incredibly mild. I mean, my goodness, at this time of the year here in the Hudson Valley, we would expect a normal low temperature overnight in mid-November of around 37, 38 degrees, and yet there are many spots in the Hudson Valley tonight that may have a tough time getting much below 50. It's and in New York City, how does this sound? A low temperature of maybe 60 or
yeah,
62?
well,
That's
the
crazy.
the uh, night before last and the one before that, we had clear skies and hardly any wind. So we actually saw a lot of spots get down into the 30s.
Hmm.
And even down into the low 30s. But that's an incredible temperature range to go from the low 30s and then head up to mid and upper 70s with record highs. Any records get broken today?
Yes, I believe Central Park broke a record by 1 degree, and I believe Newark also did. I know that here in the Westchester County Airport, they broke another record today. I think they got up to the low 70s somewhere. I did not have a chance to look at the list of high temperature records up until a few hours ago, so I don't have any specific numbers, but it was another incredibly, and the crazy thing about it is tomorrow we're probably going to have quite a bit of cloud cover, so not much in the way of sunshine, if any sun at all. And we're also going to have a threat of precipitation by afternoon. And yet tomorrow, a few spots will have a chance at tying or breaking a record, believe it
Yeah,
or not.
amazing, isn't it?
Incredible.
Robert Russo hit super chat tonight. Thank you very much, Robert. Most appreciated as always. And we are looking at the satellite loop of the U.S. and the Gulf of Mexico. By the way, Joe Rayo monitoring the chat board. So if you have any questions or comments, be sure to share them with us, and we will try to address them when we can. In the meantime, uh, the feature, I guess what stands out to me is there's a where Ada is, and then when you see it, you can't really see it too well on the infrared, but when we're still in that visible part from earlier today, there's this. It's embedded inside what looks like a large upper air circulation that is turning. I mean, the counterclockwise turning of these of some of the clouds around it extend all the way up into the Carolinas and back through the Gulf states. Not a whole lot of clouds, but it's enough. And you see Ada on the bottom of that. The convection has been blossoming a bit during the afternoon and evening. It seems to be trying to hold together, and there's an outside chance that this could strengthen as it moves northward. There are new tropical storm watches up for the Florida West Coast because it does look like now it's caught in this northerly flow, partially around that upper swirl you see there, that upper low, and that should bring it close to the Florida coast over the next couple of days. It'll be interesting to see uh, how how much strength it's able to hold on to as it moves northward. This is not an ideal time of year for a storm in the Gulf of Mexico.
No, of course not. November is not an ideal time for any tropical cyclone to be in and around because we're supposedly coming down the home stretch and coming to the end. But this year looks like it's going to keep on going, maybe even into December.
And we'll let's roll through Ada's stuff right now. Here's a closer view. I've got the Gulf satellite here on a close up, and that convection again. There's nothing going on in any land areas, including the Keys. Everything is to the south, but we're starting to see some of the precipitation on the northeast side showing up on the radar. It's a small system in there, but not too shabby looking as it moves slowly northward. And here's the official Hurricane Center forecast. The last advisory at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, 6/7 Central, 23.5, 84.7, moving north at 7. Top winds are 60 miles an hour. They keep the storm center along and east of 85 west offshore until it reaches the Panhandle sometime over the between Friday and Sunday. It's moving very very slowly here. This also goes a bit against what some of the models are doing, which is to take it over Florida from the coastal bend and then bring it out on the Georgia side as a weakening tropical system, of course. But we'll see how this goes. It may still wind up getting left behind, and you see the yellow area there indicated where we have the tropical storm watch up.
They'll be looking at that storm very carefully as we get into the weekend at Cape Canaveral Kennedy Space Center because the next crewed mission, crewed CREWED mission for 4 astronauts are expected to fly to the International Space Station from Cape Canaveral on Saturday evening at about 8 o'clock in the evening or thereabouts. So obviously, if there was a major problem in terms of rain or wind, the system that we're looking at right now, Ada, could have a play in that. But right now, from what I've heard, they are all up and ready, and they're thinking that they will be able to get the launch off because they don't really feel that Ada will have much of an effect or impact. But we shall see. It's only Tuesday, and the launch again is on Saturday.
Tropical storm warnings are up for the dry Tortugas, and a tropical storm watch is in effect for Inglewood to Ed Norton's favorite place.
Bensonhurst
No, in a song.
in the Song of the Sewer.
No, the song he plays on the piano.
Oh, Swanee
To
River.
the Swanee River. Yes. Also, for the several Cuban provinces have a tropical storm watch for Western Cuba as well. I don't. There's the Hurricane Center does mention the outside chance that this could strengthen to a minimal hurricane, and I suppose it's possible. Once it gets north of say 27 degrees north and gets a little closer to the Florida coast, that shelf water is cooler. And in fact, they mentioned the fact that the Gulf water temperatures are only at about 27 Celsius, so about 80 or 81, which can support a tropical storm, but not much beyond that. And also the probability that it's going to run into some wind shear as it gets further to the north. So it's got some issues with respect to what it may have to deal with going forward. But again, while it's still south of 25, 26 north, it has a shot that it could briefly become a minimal hurricane again. We'll see what it produces. It's had a history of producing rain more on the east side than on the west side of the system. And I'm trying to get the radar up here. I'm just trying to find my mouse. It's not behaving itself very well at the moment, but you can see on the radar that the rain is coming off of Cuba now and moving northward, but there's nothing really very close to the Keys. You still have some scattered showers and downpours over parts of the state of Florida, but nothing widespread going on from that respect. And then let's jump over to what's going on in the Midwest, because we've got a really active line of thunderstorms here, Joe. There's a squall line that's just moved through Chicago across the state of Illinois and moving eastward. Very impressive for this time of year, but just goes to show you how strong this ridge in the east is, and the relatively warmer air that's covering pretty much the eastern half of the U.S.
Exactly. I have not thought about or mentioned anything about a thunderstorm or any convection in our area when we get the main thrust of the precipitation here tomorrow night. I don't know if you think that there might be any, but I'm just, I kept it out of the forecast and just simply said, showery rains and possible heavy rain, but I'm not sure whether or not we would be in the ballpark to see any lightning or thunder tomorrow night.
And there's also some snow on the northwest side of this low and cold front in Minnesota that's producing several inches in some places. You can see the solid green area there on the radar, so it's a fairly uh, not too shabby looking area of snow here. Probably a few moderates in the mix as well. And SPC uh, had. Oops, wait, hold on. I'm again, my mouse is not behaving. A shrinking tornado watch in the state of Illinois, and also was up for parts of Wisconsin. Still a little bit of it left, just touching Chicago right now. And you see that line is pushing eastward. And they just issued a new severe thunderstorm watch for parts of Michigan. Thought we were done with severe weather. Let's they just issued it. You can see it pop up there on the last couple of frames there for Michigan as that front moves east. So this line seems to want to hold together with the support it has with the cold front. And I think if we take this satellite view from Canada, you can see the blowup of clouds, fairly impressive there, running across Wisconsin and into Michigan, extending south into Illinois, and also the swirl that's behind it, the upper air, uh, the upper air little vorticity that's moving through in the cold air. and the shortwave trough, and that's producing the snow back through Minnesota. Meanwhile, you still got moisture coming in off the Pacific and the Pacific Northwest and Northern Rockies. There's more issues there with regards to snow in the Northern Rockies. And I got it here. I got the uh, what did I the winter guidance from the WPC folks. I've got here the probability, 72-hour probability of at least 2 inches covers pretty much a good portion of the Northwest, and also right now we're seeing probabilities close to 90 and 100% of 2 inches from northeastern Minnesota, northwestern Wisconsin, and then our northeast of there. I'll flip to the 4 and lower probabilities, but a few places showing some chances for maybe 4 inches or more in right in the northwest corner of Wisconsin, and also up in the Northern Rockies and up the Cascades in Oregon and Washington. So it's some snow is going on. It's cold somewhere or cold enough somewhere, but not yet in the eastern part of the U.S.
No, I actually think that on Thursday, after the front moves on by, the high temperature on Thursday could be in the 50s to around 60 in the early morning hours, and then kind of level off and actually drop through the 50s during the course of the day on Thursday. It'll be quite a different story Thursday as opposed to what we've been seeing and even what we're going to see again tomorrow. And by the way, even though I said a few moments ago that I didn't think that we'd see any convection or any thunderstorm activity, that belies the fact that the folks over at the Storm Prediction Center do have our area in the chance for general thunderstorms here, probably for tomorrow night. So if you happen to hear a rumble of thunder or see a flash of lightning, well, that'll be good if you're into that sort of thing. Again, I think the air is going to be just a tad too stable, or I just don't think that we're going to be able to get enough instability to see anything like that. But we'll see.
Yeah. The 21Z surface map, you can see the position of Eta with respect to Cuba and just how far the center is from the Keys. So there's a fair distance there of a couple of 100 miles. And then as we move up the coast, our high is now offshore. A little breezy out here right now, Joe. Getting some gusts to about 15 or 20 miles an hour every once in a while. A bit more of a south wind has taken over. So of course, with the wind, temperatures are going nowhere tonight, and you can also see the 70s going all the way back into Illinois. Now this was ahead of that cold front with the low in eastern Iowa, and in the colder air up in Minnesota, temperatures are in the 20s. So no doubt that their precip is obviously snow. And then of course you look up in the northwest, you just got weak features at the moment, but you do have that jet coming in from off the Pacific that's bringing in more rain. And in fact, WPC clobbering the Pacific Northwest coast down to Northern California with several or more inches of rain for the next 7 days in total, and also up in the Northern Rockies. And we know that most of that is going to be snow. And then on the east, we have a little bit of moisture is because of the regime that Eta is in, that swirl, that upper low, is pulling up some tropical moisture that's going to get involved with this cold front. So WPC actually has a rather impressive amounts of rain from southern New England down to the Carolinas of 2 inches or more, and in fact, some places further south might even be on the order of 3 or 4 inches down through Virginia and North Carolina. So pretty solid moisture field here, and the 1 inch line goes up into central New England, which is a good thing because of the drought there, and extends back into the Ohio Valley down into the southeast. You also have some leftover precip up around the Great Lakes and down through the middle Mississippi Valley and southern plains, mainly on the order of 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch in most places, a little bit more around the land masses around Lake Superior and Lake Huron, and of course in the colder air back through Minnesota, we are dealing with the white stuff. I'm kind of waiting, Joe. I wanted to, at least to get some kind of threat so that I could get my teeth, cut my teeth a little bit. That first storm of the season is always a tough one to figure, no matter how the models portray it. Uh,
Right. Right, you're just not used to it. Sometimes you get caught off guard. Although the storm we had 2 years ago in mid-November, you and I weren't caught off guard. We knew that we were going to get snow. Uh, Again, the unfortunate thing about that one was that nobody else believed it, or none of the municipalities decided that they were going to treat the roads, and we all remember what happened in the aftermath of that.
That's true. Although the amount of traffic around here these days isn't really wouldn't it probably be a whole lot less problematic if we wound up getting a snow event now, but it's not going to happen anyhow. All right, let's do some upper air stuff, and here we are from last night. So let me just roll it to um, the latest, and let me make sure I got the latest run, which I don't have. Let me bring that up, and there we go. So we'll let it load. And all right, so our ridge in the east is finally weakening and moving out. You can put the upper high sitting off the southeast coast. So we do have, we're kind of on the edge of the southwest flow. And when you look at it, Joe, it would seem that Ada, which is right here, if it nudges a little bit further to the north, the moisture here should wind up getting pulled into that south-southwest flow as this cold front approaches. But the big question is, uh, does that happen? Are we going to see this move far enough north where it somehow gets involved in all of this? This is actually 24 hours from now. I stand corrected. So this is for tomorrow afternoon. This would suggest that some of that moisture does try, at least the moisture part probably gets pulled up, but the center could still wind up getting left behind there in the Gulf of Mexico. And then, of course, you see how deep the trough is in the west, and because of where the ridge is, all the cold air, at least initially, is piling on into the northern plains and northern Rockies. But some of that chillier air some of that is going to be coming eastward after this weather system gets out of here late this week, and it may be until sometime Friday before it clears out. There's some question about whether how fast the clearing is going to take place.
Yeah, I think I mentioned for Friday a possibility in the Hudson Valley, at least of a few lingering showers or a little bit of lingering precipitation, and then yeah, gradually, slowly, painfully, we'll break out into some sun. I think in the afternoon hours on Friday. If you want a nice, clear, sunny day, it looks like it's going to be Saturday, and originally it looked like it was going to be sort of a washout of a day on Sunday, but now I think Sunday will probably see intervals or breaks of early sun. We may not see any showers until later Sunday. So the weekend doesn't look all that bad, except in the fact that unlike the uh, situation we've been into recently, we've been spoiled by these temperatures. By the time we get to the weekend, no question about it, back to November or typical November with readings probably only in the low 50s.
Part of the problem here is you look at the upper air and is the fact that the trough is so far to the west that this front gets through, but it doesn't push all the way out. We still have a west southwest flow here going into Friday, and then your trough is now swinging across the eastern Great Lakes. So it may have to wait until that goes by. One of the plus signs here is the fact that if Ada does wind up getting pulled up, the moisture field and all the rest of it gets pulled up into that frontal zone, that salvages the weekend for us. It would be more problematic if it were to hang around in the Northeast Gulf and this trough were to bypass it, and then the next one that comes along later in the weekend were to pull it up. But it doesn't seem that that's going to be the case. This is probably going to wind up uh, getting pulled up with the lead system, and then we still have a west southwest, a westerly flow over the weekend. So we just kind of have to wait for all this energy in that trough to the west finally swings eastward, and you can see it here as it deepens when it approaches the northeast and the mid-Atlantic states on Monday. This is where I think we could wind up with a decent shot of cold air that comes in behind it for Tuesday and Wednesday, and then maybe it starts to pull out right after that, because guess what? The ridge is back at the end of next week and through next weekend. Doesn't build as strongly as what we had, but it'll build enough. And then rolling along, folks, Jonah, this is all very progressive. Everything just keeps moving west to east, west to east. There's no, there's no blocking So all the energy in the west just keeps piling in, and we have a ridging in between these troughs as they go in and out. So any cold shots we get are going to be fleeting. They're going to be in and out in a day or two.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. We are not going to see any prolonged period of cold weather. And in fact, the long range outlooks from the Climate Prediction Center continue to show above normal on average, above normal temperatures here, not just for the 6 to 10 day, but also for the 8 to 14 day period. And if you want to go all the way further out on their 3 to 4 week experimental probability map, they've got us above normal into the opening days of December. So it's going to be it's if you're looking for repeat of, let's say, a couple of years ago where we had that early snow and cold weather, that ain't in the cards. It looks like for the foreseeable future around here.
No, I'm looking at. I brought up the whole upper air of North America. If you look down in the Caribbean on Sunday, there is a. It does develop this system into a tropical, probably a tropical storm, and takes it west and then southwest, uh, south of Nicaragua, almost to Panama. I mean, that's how far south this one goes. And another one appears later in the forecast period, so who knows? We may not. We may go past iota. In the meantime, if you watch the overall flow here, folks, again, all the troughing dropping down from Alaska into the northwest. You keep seeing this ridge popping up into the east as these troughs shift eastward. There's no real sign of any kind of blocking, no real sign of pressures rising across the polar region, just kind of displace everything further south. The Pacific, well, I mean, it's not a straight west to east ruler, but it's not that far off. But you've got pretty much a straight westerly flow coming across the Pacific, Joe, from one side to the other, right into the western part of the United States. And there's no cross polar flow. All your cold air is going to be up in the northwest, down maybe to the northern plains. There's no flow coming down from northern Canada into the eastern part of the United States anytime here in the next 16 days. And the last day on the long range, by the way, is Thanksgiving Day.
Yes, 2 weeks from this Thursday. Hard to believe, huh?
Pretty soon we're going to see the December handle on this map, and also maybe just kind of in preparation for tomorrow, I'm going to bring up we haven't done this in quite a while, but I'll bring up that 10 millibar so we could take a look at the polar vortex in the stratosphere. So we're way up here now, folks, at like 30,000 feet. Here's your polar vortex sitting right over the Arctic Ocean, midway between the north coast of Alaska and Siberia. In that time frame, it's tightly wound. I'm just going to roll it back. One of the things when you look at when you look at the stratosphere is that you don't see a whole lot of really there's only one feature to look at, and that's the polar vortex. So it starts off where it's actually a little bit further to the east of where it winds up. It migrates up toward Siberia and then kind of just sits there along the north coast of Siberia. So you want to get that polar vortex to shift further south and east and get it, somewhere near Greenland or northern Canada, northeast Canada, so that you could allow the stratosphere anyway, trying to dictate whether the lower atmosphere is going to send cold air masses down into the eastern part of the United States. The only thing I will say about it, Joe, it's not wrapped up like a tight little ball where all the cold air stays up in the Arctic region. It is kind of amorphous and spread out over a very, very large area. So if you want to take a positive away from this, if you're a snow lover, it's that the polar vortex is not wrapped up like a tight ball all up in the Arctic region, confining all the cold air there. There is cold air; it is getting somewhere, but it's just not coming into the eastern part of the United States.
But I don't see any stratospheric warming alerts in the
Mm,
immediate future,
No,
Joe.
there's
I
no
don't see.
sign on that loop. You look for those areas of brown and red to indicate warmer air aloft getting swept up and around it. There's no sign of that whatsoever. So uh, we'll just have to just see what it does over time. Uh, we're still kind of new at this at that part of at looking at that part of the atmosphere. So uh, I'm always interested to see what it looks like up there and ultimately what it winds up looking like down here. Surface map time, and there's your rain for Wednesday. Looks like the rain might not get to the coast until late in the afternoon. It does make it to eastern Pennsylvania and upstate New York and through Virginia and North Carolina. And you can see some of that tropical moisture that starts to develop north and east of Ada off the southeast coast that gets drawn into this. So that's why some of the heavier rains are going to be south of New York City down to Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and into Virginia and North Carolina. The models are fairly bullish here. Into Thursday afternoon, then there's a little break. And then, of course, because the upper trough is going by and the remnant low of Ada, if the GFS is correct, that does move across Florida and then off the Carolina coast. So this goes against what the Hurricane Center is doing because they're leaving it behind in the Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
But we do see a little bit of moisture bubble up on Friday with the upper trough. And again, because Ada's now out of the way and not in a position to do anything over the weekend, there's a disturbance that the GFS is picking up on Saturday, Joe, with a little snow up in the northern lakes and some rain in Ohio and into western PA that weakens as it comes eastward. It's got a little bit of little spits of rain here Saturday night, but then dry on Sunday. And then we wait for the stronger cold front on Monday, which brings through some showers. And behind that, the gradient tightens a bit. And we got a little bit of lake effect to talk about next week for a day or two. And then we could say goodbye to that as the high goes out to the south and we warm up again.
And
And on it goes.
that's the 18Z GFS. That's the 18Z GFS is telling us that it's not going to be a resplendent, brilliantly clear day from start to finish on Saturday. What the 18Z seems to be suggesting is that it starts beautifully clear and sunny, and then we'll probably see some cloud cover building in the second half of the day. And you mentioned, Joe, that it's showing a little, spotty precip, which
Yeah, just a little bit. It's a bigger area as it approaches western Pennsylvania, and then it starts to weaken fairly quickly. There's just a little bit left to it. It would argue that you might throw in the chance for a sprinkle or a shower Saturday night that might not even be enough to make the ground wet. And then Sunday looks like it'll be okay. And then here comes a cold front with these showers on Monday, and then colder air behind it. A blustery later Monday night, Tuesday night into Wednesday until the high can pass. And you look across the country. I mean, there's it's not like we've got big lows going to the Great Lakes. Uh, there's no powerhouses going on anywhere. It's relatively benign. Certainly everywhere east of the Rockies, it's relatively benign. You've got action coming into the Pacific Northwest, especially toward the end of the going into next weekend, showing some kind of powerhouse low there, a 970 low approaching Seattle from the west. But that's the first sign of any kind of powerhouse system that's coming into the United States. Other than that, nothing. And you know what? Not having a major hurricane recurving and heading up into the northern regions of the Atlantic to something to disrupt the pattern. There's just nothing out there that looks like it can disrupt this pattern. If you're looking for change, it's just not there.
maybe we'll have maybe we'll have an earthquake or a meteor hit somewhere, meteorite hit.
Yeah, let's see.
You're looking for disasters, folks, right?
I'm gonna see if I can bring up. Hang on. Uh, Let me click on theta because I clicked on eta, so now I got to click on theta. And here's a satellite loop of theta, which is way out in the Atlantic. We're talking, if you're plotting, it's 29 north, 37.4 west. So that puts it at least 600 or 700 miles south of the Azores, and it's moving east. This was a subtropical system, but they said it required tropical characteristics today. looks like it's completely separated from the frontal boundary that it was associated with it. So it's a small tropical storm. It gets another name out of the way, and that's pretty much
Another letter.
another letter out of the way. Yes, I'm so used to saying saying another name. And I'll bring up the Caribbean so we can just take a look at that other system that the Hurricane Center's watching. And there is actually quite a bit of convection that has developed in the Eastern Caribbean, but there's shear going on there. Just have to wait for that tropical wave to move further to the west, because when you move it into the central Caribbean, there's no sign of any wind shear there. So this might wind up developing relatively quickly, much like we've seen a number of systems in the last month in this area that have moved westward and have developed very, very fast. So don't be shocked if you wind up seeing a repeat performance of it, of that, when that system gets into the Eastern Caribbean. So I don't know. It's quiet. Overall, though, this has been a really, though, I got to say, I really, what I really enjoyed about this is that um, the fact that, oftentimes when it gets unusually warm this time of year, it's because you have a dirty high that's out in the ocean, and you're dealing with a southeast or a south wind, and you get low clouds and fog, and maybe you break out in sun, maybe you don't. The air has that sticky feel to it. It's actually been, I mean, it's been incredibly comfortable. The air has been so dry. And of course, it's been warm everywhere, including Caribou, Maine, because the chairman, Scott Briller, messaged me and let me know that they hit an all-time record high today for the month of November. They got to I don't know what the final high was. They got to 75. I think that's where they had to get to,
Well,
and that
we said that this pattern kind of resembled what we were looking at back when in the April or May, where
yes,
the ridge was building over northern New England and southeastern Canada, and they were hitting mid and upper 90s in Montreal, and Caribou was hot too, and we had only warm weather. We didn't have hot weather. And I said, that be the case, we could be seeing something similar to that again now. And
well, their high today was actually higher than the than the average high um, than the average high for July.
yeah,
I mean, that's
amazing.
how out of whack this is.
This is crazy. This really is. I know in Westchester County Airport, I've been keeping track of the records there. And tomorrow, if they break the record at the airport tomorrow, it will be, get this now, 5 straight new records at Westchester County Airport. That's amazing. I mean, it's one thing to do it maybe two times, maybe 3 times at this time of the year, November, but to go 5 straight days with record temperatures or near record temperatures for a place like New York City, Central Park, Newark, Islip. Joe, how is Islip managing to get into the mid 70s these last few
I
days?
don't. Well, with the west wind,
Yeah.
there's been a west wind here. There's been no sea breeze at all.
Were you fogged in last night, or
Nope,
was it? No, you weren't.
not here. I mean, I imagine when I got up early this morning and I could see it to my south. So I imagine that it probably did get into the South Shore areas, but no, not at all. And normally, in a case where you get a dirty high, which this wasn't when it went offshore, normally I would get that fog layer coming all the way in. But no, oddly enough, I had it the first night when the high was almost to was still to our west. That very first night, going into Saturday, I think it was Saturday morning, and it was gone within, as soon as the sun came up, it was gone within 15, 20 minutes. So it was an incredibly shallow layer. But I thought maybe I thought there was a chance that we could see some here tomorrow, last night into this morning. And the wind is really blowing this evening, relatively speaking. So I find it hard pressed to think that I'm going to see it late tonight or tomorrow morning, although I've been fooled before.
Yeah.
But we'll see. You ready for a little Briller Jeopardy tonight?
Yeah, I don't have Briller Jeopardy, but I do have a trivia question for you.
Okay. Okay. Who you want to go first?
Well, Johnny, wait a minute, hold on. It's a late bulletin from the executive producer here, right? She's monitoring the chat board more than I am. Johnny Quest asked this three times. Do they have certain times to launch rockets to the ISS? All right. Well, yes. The reason why they have certain times, Johnny, is that they have to get into the exact orbital plane of the ISS when it's passing over the Cape Canaveral area. And after it moves on past, that's when everything is aligned so that they can get into the proper position in order to launch to the ISS. And the launch window, generally speaking, is only about 5 minutes. So they got a 5 minute interval when everything is just right for them to launch a rocket, or in this case on Saturday, the mission with four astronauts to the ISS. Believe it or not, Joe, it's funny. In the old days, when we had the space shuttle program and they launched the shuttle, or let's say some supplies to the ISS, it would take like 3 days to get there. Now, this new uh, orbital situation, they're going to be launching on Saturday evening around 8 o'clock. They're expected to get to the ISS at 5 o'clock the following morning, only about 8.5 hours. So that's pretty good. That's kind of amazing. And you asked about the question, the historical note question, what happened on this day? And it does have some meteorological uh, notation here. What happened on this day 45 years ago?
The blackout.
No, the blackout was yesterday. And that
Oh,
was
so this was the day after the blackout.
55. Now, that was 55 years ago yesterday in 65. This would be 45 years ago, November 10th, 1975.
It snowed.
It's not anything that happened locally, but it is a significant meteorological event. And I will throw a hint
Oh,
at you.
oh, oh, ooh, 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 ooh. I think I got it. I think I got it.
Yes,
So I think if I remember correctly, was that no, that was 1977 where we had the a remnant tropical depression that set the all-time 24-hour rainfall record for New York
right.
City.
That
So
was like 8 inches of rain, I think.
right, but that was so that's not it. So
That's not.
75.
I will tell you. I will give you a hint. Um, you can still hear it occasionally on some of the radio stations that play music of the 70s.
You can still hear on radio stations that play music of the 70s,
Right.
like the WABC chimes, which I think they use on New Jersey
Right.
101.5 radio.
It was a made into a hit song.
I have no idea. I give
Well,
up.
how about if I say the name of the person who sang the song? Gordon Lightfoot.
Oh, oh, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Correct. That happened on this day
Yes,
in 1975, 45 years ago.
I don't think the maps on WPC's go WPC surface map that I use. And Robert Brown, I put the link up on the chat board because you were asking. The calendar on there is on the upper left side. So if you click on the calendar, you can go back. Um, you can go back quite a ways, but we can't go back into the 70s. So otherwise, I'd love to pull up the surface map for that. And if uh, maybe tomorrow we get a chance, if I remember, I'll try to look it up on what was it, the old weather maps,
The daily weather
the
maps?
daily weather
Yeah.
map,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
pull it up from there. All right. So here are my questions, Scott's questions. The category is 20-inch snowstorms in New York City, and they had seven snowstorms of at least 20 inches since 1869. Four of those have occurred in the last 20 years,
Isn't
and
that
two and,
crazy?
and two of them occurred in the same calendar year. Can you name them?
Well, I can name the one that's on the top of the list for many, many years before it was displaced. I think in 2005, the one that sticks out immediately in my memory, not that I was around, but I remember reading about it, was the snowstorm of December 26, 27, 1947. And then there was one in, was it, I don't have the
But the
date.
ones in the ones that occurred in the 2000s,
Oh, January, there was one in 2005, right?
right?
That 2005. That was the one that broke the all-time record from 1947. I think it was in January. In fact, if I recall correctly, Johnny Carson died on that same day. So that's something that stands out in my memory for
Man,
that.
my memory used to be almost as good as it was never quite as good as yours. Mine used to be almost as good as yours, but it sure isn't anymore.
And there was one in, God, I remember. Actually, I'm remembering one. I think at Central Park. It was I was working at News 12, and when I woke up and turned on the TV after having a good night's sleep after the working the day before, I think Central Park had 19.6 inches, but that's not 20 inches, right? Then you're not rounding it off.
No, it's 20 or more. So, all right. So the dates are 27.5, January 22nd to 24th, 2016.
Okay, yeah, that was the one. Wasn't that? Yeah, all right. Okay,
Yeah, I was working at FiOS at the
that
time.
was the one. That was yeah. I remember it was on a Saturday, right? Friday
Yes,
night Saturday.
yes,
And that was the one. That was the one that the NGM was the NGM,
the
the
NAM.
NAM, the NAM was constantly calling for LaGuardia to get anywhere between 25 and 35 inches, and all the other models were saying only about 8 to 10. And we
Right.
were all saying, "Oh, the NAM, we got to phase that model out. It doesn't know what the hell it's doing." And look what happened.
That storm saved the NAM.
That
Uh,
was it,
26.9, February 11th and 12th, 2006.
right?
And then the two that occurred in the same calendar year, 20.9, February 25th, 26, 2010, 20.0, December 26, 27th of 2010.
That was, of course, the day after Christmas storm.
Yes, the
Or
Boxing Day. That was the Boxing Day blizzard.
no, I call it the Bloomberg blizzard.
But that is known as that's the Boxing Day blizzard.
Right. Okay. Well, if you want to call it that,
Yeah.
all I remember was that I think Bloomberg was in Bermuda, and when he finally came back, it was like 2 days later, and it was like the equivalent of the Lindsay storm in '69. Nothing was done. Everything was snowed in for quite a long time, and Michael Bloomberg absolutely said that there was. I remember somebody asked him, "Would you have called a snow emergency if you were here?" And he said, "No, I don't think I would. Why would I?" And he actually told everybody, enjoy this, go out to a show, do something. Like nobody could go anywhere because the roads were just absolutely clogged with snow.
Well, from the standpoint of what this looked like on the surface, I'll bring this up. Uh, this was probably the odd thing that I remember about that particular storm was that going into it, the models were focusing on the wrong shortwave, and there was one run about 48 hours before where it disappeared.
Right.
And then on the next run, it picked a different shortwave, and it wound up being even more dynamic and more bullish than what it was was indicating. But I've got up the this is the surface analysis for 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, December 26th, with a 978 low, sitting east of Cape May, south of Montauk. I mean, just crazy. And I'm just looking at some of these temperatures where you had 30s all the way down into northern Florida. I mean, I mean, the air on the back side of this, when you go back through the Great Lakes, it's not like you had below zero temperatures there. Now, you had 20s, and then you start to get into some teens in a few spots in Iowa. But all the cold air really just piled down from eastern Canada, and the dynamics were so incredible that with this that you wound up with a lot of what I always used to refer to as do-it-yourself cold air, and then the low just occluded out. It was a 72 low that moved northwest from there in the next 3 hours, and was sitting east of the central New Jersey coast, south of Montauk. The gradient was very very tight here. This is Sunday night on December 27th. I'm sorry, December 26th at 7 o'clock in the evening, and I'll just go. Then it starts to move northeast from there toward between Cape Cod and Block Island and Nantucket. By Monday morning, it was approaching Hyannis, and then on its way toward Cape Cod. It was just an absolutely incredible storm. The areas in central and South Jersey uh, got hit the hardest out of this with up to 3 feet in some places. This was their storm. I mean, in terms of the maxes, but there was a very very large area that got 20 plus out of this, and uh, I
I
was
remember.
I of
I
course was
remember.
part of that.
I remember this storm as the day that my lovely wife, my Renata's birthday is on December 27th, and we had planned a nice dinner out. I forget where we were going to go, whatever. And then all of a sudden, on the morning of that snowstorm, which that morning of December 27th, the phone rang, and it was the executive producer at the assistant news director at News 12, who I didn't get along with very well, saying, I know that you had the day off, but I really would like to see you in here as we continue our coverage of the storm. And needless to say, Renato was not too pleased at that, that I had to
Yeah, I
go in
wouldn't
for
be either.
that.
That's why I didn't answer phones.
It
No,
might be the best thing.
I don't remember if I did work that weekend. I did work that weekend. I think I got home. Yeah, I mean, it was a Sunday night. I drove it. I drove home in it.
You
I had
were
a
picked.
four-wheel drive truck. I drove home in that mess, in that thing.
You were at Pix back then, right?
Well, no,
Pix
no, I'm
Road?
trying to remember. No, 2010. No, I was fortunate. No, I was not. So I was able to watch that from home.
Oh,
No, I'm thinking of some other storms that I've so many
oh,
that I drove into. They all start feeling like they're the same. So no, that one I actually this one the Boxing Day storm I was home for, and then there was that other big one that happened on the in December. Was it the year before or 2 years before that? 08, 09, or December of 08 or December of 09.
the only other big storm I remember in December, back going back that far, was the one that came actually occurred on Christmas Day. I think New York had like 5 inches, but up here where I was, we easily had like 15 or 18 inches or something ridiculous. It fell all during the day. It actually started revving up Christmas afternoon. It was like wet flakes and not much of accumulation up until about noontime, and all of a sudden, away to the races we went. And for the rest of that day and into Christmas night, it just poured on down. That
No,
was
Joe, it was the
crazy.
prior December 19th, 2009.
Oh, okay. That was yeah. Now I remember it. And that was on a weekend. That was on
Yeah,
a
back to back years of two blockbuster storms in the month of December. This one was almost as deep, but it was a little bit further to the east. I got clobbered with this. I got about 25 inches out of this.
yeah. I,
This was an absolute clobbering for Long Island on this one.
right. I
Yeah, so
remember that.
that was what always stood out to me was the fact that we went for so many years without seeing really any kind of major snowstorm in the month of December, and then to have them back to back years was quite a thrill. And of course, we haven't seen anything like it since.
Oh, please, Joe, don't jinx this,
We're
please.
not working
Well, we don't
now.
have to working. Yeah, that's true. That's
You
true.
know, we're
That's a
not
good to know.
working now. You got, Mrs. Rayo does all the snow blowing chores.
I remember that storm that you just mentioned that Long Island got clobbered because once again, all of a sudden, her cell phone rang. We were somewhere, I don't know, on that Saturday, and they said Joe has to come in pre-storm or prepare. And I had to wait. I had to do that. I had to get in there like at noontime, and our dear friend Mr. Eisenson relieved me like at 5 or 6 o'clock that evening, and I didn't have to go in the next day, so I don't care.
No,
It's easy enough to do the before things start going to pot. Sure, I'll be happy to do that, but the actual storm, I didn't have to go in for that
no,
one.
this one I remember also because we were having a smart dinner party that night.
Oh, really?
Yes,
That was a
and
Saturday night. That was a Saturday night.
Saturday
You were saying
night, and
it was Sunday.
I
Yeah.
remember, I remember because everybody came over around 6 or 6:30, and uh, we, of course, were eating dinner, and there was no snow. It hadn't even started snowing, and by around 11 o'clock, 11:30, people started leaving. We opened the door. I couldn't get the door open.
God.
I lost track of what was going on, so I didn't even really look out the window very much while it was all going on. And then I opened it at 11 o'clock. Opened the door. There's a foot of snow on the ground, and it's still, S plus, it's snowing heavy. Um, But needless to say that my guests were all from nearby, so they got home in one piece, thankfully.
Yeah, that's pretty wild that that you actually had people come.
Yeah, well, they don't believe the weather guy. Speaking of
So
which, don't forget, folks, tomorrow night we are going to have meteorologist Bill Goodman from National Weather Service in Upton, New York, and he is going to be here to give you his ideas on the winter. So, one by one, we're getting all these people with giving opinions about the winter. I'm just going to tell you, I'm just going to, I continue to play this role of cynic, and the more I hear folks piling on to the warmer than normal snowless winter theme, uh, the more encouraged I get. I know that's I don't mean that to intellectually insult any of our guests. I'm just
I'm just waiting for the first
you
batch of.
just know how many times forecasters get burned when everybody piles onto the same side of the trade. You always want to kind of look at the other side. So I'm going to take the other side of the trade on this.
One of the highlights of my life was getting the opportunity to appear on the big screen at Radio City Music Hall in I think it was 2005. They had all the local TV weathercasters, and somehow or other, I ended up getting thrown into the mix. And the thing was, all of us uh, were in front of our respective maps showing incredibly warm weather on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and telling the viewers, too bad, sorry, it's not going to happen this year. We're not going to have a white Christmas.
I was one of the New York City weather people that was never invited to be part of that.
Oh, well, I'm sorry about that,
No,
Joe.
that's all right. It's not your fault.
I
You
wasn't
didn't.
I
You
wasn't the
didn't.
one who was doling out the invitations or whatever.
No, I
But,
understand.
but
But
I mean,
I just wanted to point that out so I could get a little sympathy.
but the only reason I bring that up is that here we are all saying, and I'm doing my shtick like that. We're not going to have any snow. Too warm, southwesterly winds, I think. And then if you were in the theater, Radio City Music Hall, watching this on the big screen, all of a sudden snowflakes start fluttering down. Santa Claus, the whole bit, what, and then all of a sudden it transforms into a winter wonderland. What is the message here? All the TV weather guys were wrong, and it turned out to be a beautiful white Christmas.
Lovely, nice. So
What
that
is
you can
Christmas?
get publicly
We even
humiliated.
had to we even had to sing. What is Christmas without snow? What is Christmas
Oh,
without
oh,
white snow?
oh God. The Joe and Joe Weather Show was brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, where when it snows this winter, Omni True Value Hardware will be there for you with all the winter weather equipment you need, from rock salt, mag ice melting pellets and flakes, Petalo premium salt and ice melter, shovels, spreaders, snow blowers, and anything else you need to clear the snow from your walkway. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue, West Babylon, New York, 631-756-1125. Or go to the website, omnitruevalue.com, for more information. So, looking forward to Bill coming on. He hasn't been on in a while. Looking forward to Bill coming on tomorrow night. Have your questions ready, folks. Okay?
Yes, sir. I will have my questions ready.
And I'm going to try again to see if we get Patreon members to come up on the air and ask a few questions as well. We'll give that trick a whirl again.
Yeah,
All
we'll
right,
see.
all right, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Good night.